Good evening, Uganda. The National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024 seeks to reform Uganda's coffee industry by abolishing the Coffee Development Authority and transferring its functions to the ministry responsible for agriculture. The bill arises from the government's broader policy for rationalization of government agencies and public expenditure, aimed at streamlining government functions to eliminate redundancies, reduce costs, and enhance efficiency. And this is our focus this evening. Welcome to the show. Let me introduce my panel this evening. I have Honorable Nsamba Patrick. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Kamara. Good evening, viewers. Good evening, my fellow panelists.
I have Honorable Mapenduzi Ojara. Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for responding to our invitation.
Thank you, my brother Kamara, and good evening.
And I have a coffee farmer, Dr. Ian Clark. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me begin from the far left of my side with you, the Honorable Patrick Nsamba. Where do you stand on this National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024 that government is telling us really it seeks to cut costs and streamline everything and have better service delivery and efficiency? And those are good words in my view.
You know, as Parliament, we took a decision which was not influenced some time back, around May, when this bill came. Members of Parliament sat down and in their wisdom, we said no to rationalization of UCDA. And our thinking was, we grow coffee here, it's a major cash crop, but it's also a livelihood for so many Ugandans. But the coffee we grow, we don't consume it. It depends on it is most of it is exported. So we thought we need to keep the regulator and don't tamper with the regulator, because we needed, because the coffee value chain is big, you need somebody who is looking at the entire chain, from the farmer to those who are hauling coffee to the exporters and whoever is participating in the coffee value chain. And in our wisdom, as members of Parliament, we thought, and this is one of the bills that came and was non-partisan, most members of Parliament said no. And they said, government can rationalize all other agencies, but this one touches us, touches the local person, touches everyone. We need the sector to remain performing the way it is. Now, when the President learned about this decision, he insisted that the bill must be brought back again in Parliament. And now this is what we are faced with. We are faced with members of Parliament wanting to praise the President at this level. That implies rescinding changing their mind about their earlier decision. And this is where we are as Parliament, to the extent that they've been told the President wants it. He wants this agency rationalized without coming up with clear reasoning that can convince Parliament. Otherwise, if members of Parliament had to change their mind, especially our colleagues from the NRM, those that have changed their mind, they would have been empowered by serious reasoning. But they have only one reason: the man wants it. The man wants it. And this is where we are. And once you're faced with such a challenge, you have to have a Parliament the way it appeared today. We stop going into the usual decorum. Then we know that now this is a battle. If somebody wants our coffee, we have to fight for it. And the scenes of yesterday and the scenes of today, the background is that one where a force is coming to Parliament to say you must do this.
But
even when members of Parliament...
You know that rationalization is good for other sectors, public sectors. You know it is creating efficiency, it's cutting redundancy, removing ambiguity. Why do you think this particular public body cannot be streamlined and be made better, when it is taken back to the mother ministry? Why do you think others are good to go there and not this? Because even other public sectors are good enough.
I'll use forests, for example. Protecting forest reserves can be done by anyone. We agreed to rationalize NFA, and we have no problem, because we think the mother ministry can deal with that. But here we are talking about a product within the nation which is on a day-to-day basis. There is no room in coffee, room for people to spend 3 years preparing. We are asking the president, first prepare. When you're ready, with whatever you want to do, you'll come for legislation.
Okay, let me hear from the Honorable Mapenduzi here, because I understand you're on the different side of the argument on this one, and you think it's a good move. Why would it be a good move from your point of view?
I do not want to say I'm on a different side. There are areas I disagree with, and there are areas that I think my concerns have been taken care of, and I'll try to give you a brief background. Just like my colleague Patrick put it, a few months ago, this matter came to Parliament. We debated, and Parliament took a decision. And for me, I'm equally a farmer, but not yet growing coffee. But I'm very much interested in the coffee sector, and I'm sure you know that in northern Uganda, this is an area that we feel a lot more should have been done, and by now we would be doing so well in coffee. And so we are trying to put a lot of effort to make sure we get there, and now people begin to reap, just like the other parts of the country. So I'm very much interested when it comes to things around coffee and all that. And so when this matter first came, I had about 3 key concerns. First, I want to agree that the idea of rationalizing these agencies is a fantastic idea. Why? Because for many years, many of us, and I want to believe my colleague equally, have the belief that this government has created structures that are not relevant, not necessary. And many of us have been pushing that government needed to trim, to deal with the aspect of wastage, duplication and overlaps, and so there is a lot of that. There are offices that are not necessary, and not only the agencies, even comes to political offices. We have a very big parliament. There are offices like that of the RDCs. We have so many presidential advisors. Some of them do not see the president. So there is need to critically look at all these areas and begin to think how we can save all these resources that exactly, so we can do much more in terms of providing services to the citizens. So that has been, so the idea of rationalizing is a good idea.
I hope you know that the first idea to create these agencies was to have some kind of efficiency.
Exactly. Now that brings me to the 3 things I was talking about. My first question was, why did government create these agencies, first of all? That was my first question. If you saw the need to have them created, do those needs still exist, or you do not think they exist anymore? My second question was, if we are going to have these agencies, entities cease to be, how are we going to make sure that for those that are performing well, the kind of services they were providing do not disappear? The citizens continue to get what they deserve, but also even much better. And my third question was, if that is the direction, is government prepared to undertake this responsibility? If you are taking to the Ministry of Agriculture, is the ministry fully ready for such a responsibility. Now, I'll bring you to the answers. So the decision I took first in May was that we think government needs to reflect deeply and come with better ideas. And so we have had a lot of discussions, and I can tell you, I have attended a few meetings of the Agriculture Committee, but I also attended a meeting where the President and the officials from the ministry to provide justifications, some of them responding to some of the doubts I had. For example, my question regarding the
So
level
you're not against rationalizing. You are for rationalizing, but it's the how part.
I am not against the rationalizing. I am against taking a decision hurriedly that is going to impact negatively on the progress that's being made.
Let me come to, hold on to your point, sir. Let me come to Dr. Ian Clark. Dr. Ian Clark is also a coffee farmer. By the way, gentlemen, are you growing coffee?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Ian Clark is a coffee farmer, and I was honored to visit your farm. I think a village called Nyaruzagati in Kigoyera sub-county in Kenjojo district, right?
Yes.
Yes. So when you listen to the discussion of these two gentlemen and what is at play from the government side, rationalizing and bringing those agencies into the mother ministry, what do you make of it?
This is politics. and I'm not in politics any longer.
Yeah, I know.
I think that in the bigger picture, the rationalization of the agencies was, you said they were trying to create efficiencies. Now, when it came down to the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, generally speaking, I think that as a generalization, and you've already said it, both the opposition and the NRM felt, you should keep that because it has functions to do. I mean, the UCDA does regulation. I export coffee. I need an export certificate from the UCDA. They do inspections to make sure that the coffee that I export is up to quality, good quality. They do trainings. They do trainings in quality in coffee. They have done campaigns to provide seedlings, maybe the wrong ones, but they have done campaigns to educate farmers in better farming methods and so on. So generally, I think people said, we need an agency for coffee. It's either our largest or our second largest export, and it's growing very rapidly. And so it was generally we need an agency. So I think it's an interesting point that has been made saying, if you abolish that agency, what do you put in its place? Can a ministry actually handle all the functions that it does? And I think if I'm right in saying you've reached a kind of a compromise, because State House, the President has said, no, I want to rationalise this agency. So you've said, okay, well, let's give it 3 years, a 3-year period during which, we'll rationalise it and maybe see what takes its place. But I think from a farming...
How will it affect you as a farmer?
Well, those functions that it does must continue. Somebody has to continue to issue the export certificate, to do the quality inspections and so on. And UCDA has the officers. So
UCDA has the accreditation and the certification. Yeah. It is known globally. Won't it take some time before the Ministry of Agriculture gets the same accreditation? And
to me, there would probably have to be
and the seal of quality that UCDA has already gotten from the global market.
Well, to me, there would have to be a body that actually does that within the Ministry of Agriculture. So those functions will still have to take place as such. I think my understanding is the coffee sector is very important to Uganda, so we need a body to represent it. However, the President is not happy with the representation that the UCDA has given, and I don't think it's anything against any particular individual in the UCDA, but he sort of feels that, we've heard the President talk a lot about value addition and about the fact that we as African countries are getting the short end of the stick, where if you take the global coffee market, it represents billions and billions of dollars, and what we get is a few percent of that. And so he feels that anybody representing us must be perhaps more muscular, must be getting more value addition and so on. Now UCDA have not seen that as their role.
Okay, but Martin, if I can come back to you before I go to Patrick, really, coffee is the second biggest, I think, foreign exchange earner for Uganda. Is it about 1.1 or 1.2 billion dollars? That's a lot of money. And I think we get more money from coffee than any other country on the continent. We produce, maybe we're second to Ethiopia. I know that Ethiopia also consumes the very coffee that they produce. So we have seen the coffee sector grow. I think it's almost 8 million bags. And that is, and the projection was 20 million bags. So it looks like this is the cash cow. It looks like this is the winning formula. Why interrupt something that seems to be working for Uganda? Because many things are not working. Why interrupt something that is working?
I think the question we need to interest ourselves in is that the executive, the president and his team in the executive is coming with the idea of rationalizing this entity. Is he against the sector? I don't think that is it. The president is not against the sector. And just like Dr. put it, time and again, even during the State of the Nation's address, even during the budget speech, he repeated and said he would not want to continue seeing the country sending out or exporting raw materials. We need to begin to process them from here so we can get much more. And that is exactly what Doctor is putting. And so I think the president is doing this in good faith. The question then is, the entity that is going to take up this responsibility, how prepared are they? Do they have the marshals? Do they have the infrastructures? And that is the Ministry of Agriculture. So we should spend a lot more time talking about how the Ministry of Agriculture needs to prepare.
Do you,
because look,
Martin,
just
Honorable Mapenduzi,
yes, please.
do you believe that UCDA, as we have it now, as a sector, is a robust sector that is good for Uganda, it's winning for Uganda, it's bringing $1.1 billion as foreign exchange, it's a winning formula?
I think they've tried.
Why disrupt it? Even if you mean good, because you can potentially create a problem, yet your original idea was good.
Look here, my brother Kamara. The same government that is talking about rationalizing is the same government that came up with the idea of creating this agency. And just like I said in Parliament, when you decide to create an entity, you must have very clear targets, clear intentions. And you have to continuously assess whether they are performing to your expectation. And after that, you can decide to improve, you can decide to create a new direction. That is entirely the responsibility of government, and they're doing so. We have a duty to put government to task and say, if you want to pursue this direction, how are you going to do it without disrupting? How are you going to do it better? Is your intention, are you intending to do something much better? Show us. And that is the debate we need to get. I think there is a lot of diversion.
Honorable Mapenduzi, with all respect, you're not a coffee farmer, and also with respect...
don't hurry to judge.
Because you said it.
Don't hurry to judge.
Because you said it. Because you said it.
Look here, I don't want to blow my horns, because I am just starting.
And our brothers in northern Uganda are still reluctant.
The fact that I'm just starting doesn't mean I don't understand a lot.
And our brothers in northern Uganda seem to be still reluctant to get into the coffee sector.
We are not reluctant. I think there's been some kind of deliberate, I don't want to call it plan, not to get us into that, but I think not much has been done, and we are beginning to get there.
But the coffee crop is so dear to the people in central Uganda, the people in Buganda, where you come from, the people you represent. Are they worried about this bill?
Yes,
Why?
so much. One, my brother Mapenduzi, when I became a member of parliament, just a small section of my people were growing coffee. I met here the late Honorable Kasamba, who preached to me and said, Patrick, if you want to help your people, please tell them to grow coffee. I started in 2017, and I want to tell you when I started, now coffee is the business in Kasanda North. So this business of saying that you expected somebody to come and put you on board, kindly first of all, go on board and bring people on board to be in business. Having said that, Kamara, the people of Kasanda are following, because nowadays when we are selling at farm gate prices, we must know what is happening in Kampala in terms of prices. Before you sell your coffee, you must first confirm what are the prices in Kampala. And the people in Kampala wait for prices. I think from now Ian is saying he's an exporter. He knows. Now, for us, we are not at the level of export. They also confirm prices from the exporters. So matters to do with the coffee, everyone. I want to tell you, somebody just called me when I was in Parliament, and I just saw in a minute or two, I was on phone to say, I'm sorry, I'm in Parliament. In a minute or two, I saw on our social groups saying, your member of Parliament is on phone. He's not listening. So people were following, and they are highly concerned about what is going on. Now, there are a few things that I want to iron out. Government cannot come to tell us that they are rationalizing, and the main purpose of rationalizing is to create efficiency, to deal with wasteful expenditure, and then you run for an organization that earns you 82 billion in licenses, and you fund it with 44 billion. And out of the 44, there is about 30 billion for nursery operators, which is not even their money, because the entire agency money is about some billions. This money is remitted every day to the central, to the consolidated fund. So matters of saying, is this what they earn versus what we put in? Before even just out of licenses. And if you told UCDA to just operate like UCCE, I mean UCC, Uganda Communications Commission, which collects licenses and depends on that to survive, UCDA can survive even much better than when government picks money from the consolidated fund to give it. So in terms of talking about efficiency, this is the deal.
That it is actually making money.
It is making money, and leave alone that. We've seen our government giving 500 billion to Day Farmer, to Atayaka Sugar. Those are private institutions that have brought in nothing. And a budget they've given to Day Farmer can sustain UCDA for 10 years or 15 years if you go by their current budget. So it's not good wisdom to claim that you're creating efficiency where there is no wasteful expenditure. So I've dealt with that. Secondly, people must understand this. If President Museveni told us within 3 years I'll come with a legislation to rationalize UCDA, nobody would be complaining. Because we will know that in these 3 years they are preparing the Ministry of Agriculture to take over.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, do you know what they are doing? They want to first kill, to dissolve it. What was on the floor of Parliament, the law on the floor of Parliament, they want to dissolve it. Then 3 years, for what now? Having killed the agency, you've dissolved it. Now 3 years to do what?
As a farmer, Dr. Ian Clark, what inefficiencies do you see in UCDA?
Well, government agencies are not known to be the most efficient in any government agency.
I wanted to complete.
Okay, conclude it.
Before you go back to Ian, we have agencies like URA, which are very strategic. You can't, because you're rationalizing, you're not going to come and say, I'm rationalizing Uganda Revenue Authority. Because the mode of rationalization has come, you want to rationalize and say, I'm rationalizing UCC. Because we are in rationalization, so let us rationalize National Water and Sewerage Corporation. Now, there are those strategic institutions that you're not supposed to play with. And UCDA is one of those ones. Very strategic to the nation, to the government, because it's the major foreign exchange earner. Very strategic to the extent that it is the sector that pays the school fees for the local person. Very strategic to the extent that it is the livelihood of millions of Ugandans. You, Kamara, you must know that very many young people who have graduated here earn less than $1 million shilling on a day-to-day basis. Now they have discovered that I can go plant coffee and make more money than if I got a job here. So the sector will employ more of your people. It has a lot of, on the value chain.
Okay.
There is a lot you can achieve.
You have made your point.
With this sector.
You have made your point,
now,
Honorable
we
Sanders.
do not, the same way you protect it, the same way you protect and say, we want this sector to be here, is like URI and others, is the same way we want UCDA to remain.
Let me come back to another farmer, coffee farmer here. Where are the inefficiencies in your view that maybe you think they needed to be sorted?
Well, as I said earlier, one needs an agency, whether it is within the Ministry of Agriculture or freestanding, but certainly one needs an agency to do the regulatory functions for exporting coffee and to look after the coffee sector. The question is probably how it's done. Now, as far as UCDA is concerned, they are not, they're not a terrible government agency. They're quite a good agency in terms of my dealings with them, and they certainly, the leadership of the UCDA is passionate about the coffee sector. And there has been this coffee roadmap where to go from however many million bags to 20 million bags. We're now about 7 or 8 million.
2.3 to 20 million bags.
We're now about 7 to 8 million bags, and because the value of coffee itself has also increased during that time, it's a huge export earner for the country. And I totally agree with Patrick here. He's passionate about what coffee can do in the value chain, and so am I. That's why I'm in that sector. I mean, I'm a medical doctor, but I'm in that sector because it brings development, and it particularly brings development to the rural Uganda, because our growth, we're mostly 75 to 80% of our population is in rural areas. And when we look at our population pyramid, we are mostly a poor population with a middle classes, mostly in the urban areas like Gulu and Kampala and so on. And the coffee sector, this is why I'm in it, why I'm passionate about it, has the ability to improve household incomes and really bring money to the rural population, and therefore hopefully help in terms of improving education, improving healthcare, and creating future for the next generation. So I think that all of us, should be passionate about the coffee sector. Now, to me, the debate on UCDA is politics. It's pure politics. The President says, I want to rationalise this, and Parliament said no, and now there's the tussle between the President and Parliament. I think, I'm not privy to how the President thinks, but from looking at all his statements and so on, he is passionate about saying we need to bring value addition into the coffee sector, while UCDA says we're not about value addition, we're about just producing coffee. And I think sort of both are right in a way, because when I look at some of the stuff that has been going on in Uganda, we've had like the Uganda Coffee Federation. There are representative bodies. I'm the chairman of the Uganda Large Scale Coffee Farmers Association. Now, some of us are not very large scale. I'm reasonably large scale, but the idea of that is to try and get people into commercial farming of coffee. People like the honourables here, and Patrick's doing a good job encouraging people into it, because coffee is a long-term crop. If you go into coffee, you're not going to make money tomorrow. The coffee you plant today will begin to give you beans in 3 years' time. I've been in this sector for 9 years. Only this year am I breaking even. And the URA has been still taxing me. So if you take a long term, so if you take the people who are suburban dwellers or have some other incomes, but they plant coffee, in time that coffee will bring them money to educate their families and bring them income and so on.
But is this market that we have now, because we're making quite some money, there's a boom, look, many people are going into the coffee sector now, but I'm worried, because whereas it's a good story, it may just disappear, because if Brazil and Vietnam gets back on the market, Dr. Ian Clark, isn't this a bubble that can burst? It worries me.
Coffee prices can certainly go up and down, but they're not like the local market.
Because where we are now, I don't think we've ever been where we are.
No, the coffee prices are very high. I'm getting $5 for a kilo of Robusta coffee being exported, and I don't think people have ever seen those prices.
No, that's what I'm saying. We've never gotten
2 years
where
ago,
we
it was
are.
half that price. However, yes, it's high now, and it can come back a bit. But I know from my dealings with people who know about the global coffee markets. One guy who goes all over the world buying coffee, and he said, I think the days of cheap Robusta are behind us. Because if you look at the Vietnam markets, you look at places, you just don't get...
But there has been a problem in Vietnam and Brazil, I'm told.
There's
So they are not pushing their coffee in the global market. When they get back, ours could become a bubble.
No,
that worries me.
I can give you an answer to that.
Yes.
When we started to tell our farmers about the goodness of coffee, I remember very well, FHU was about 4,800, 4,500. That was in 2017. But even then, it was a better business. So even if this bubble you're talking about, I've heard the story that the sky is going to break anytime. People are claiming so. But even if it breaks, even if the bubble bursts, I want to tell you the prices will remain a better business.
Somebody explain to me, Dr. Ian Clark, before I come to you, Honorable, what made the coffee come from almost $1 a kilogram to almost $5 in the last 3-4 years? What happened to the global market? It's good for Uganda, but explain to me what happened.
Well, first of all, there's an increase in consumption of coffee in the world. So there's an increase in demand.
There's a new market.
There's more markets. China's been coming on as a market. Markets which drank tea have been starting to drink coffee. My wife, who never drank coffee, has started to drink coffee. So there's more coffee in the world as such. Now, the Vietnam, you mentioned Vietnam. Vietnam has grown to about 24 to 28 million bags production per year. But Vietnam is now not going to go beyond that, because they're now... The Vietnam farmers are a really good example for our Ugandan farmers. It's a smallholder production company. Those farmers have been producing coffee over the last 20 years or whatever. Those farmers are now no longer poor. They're now lower middle income. Those guys are now sending their kids to university because of coffee. And now they've discovered there's a fruit you grow for the Chinese that produces even more money than coffee, and they're growing peppers. So that market's not expanding. Okay? The Brazil market is very subject to fluctuations of drought, frost, all that sort of thing. That's another big producer of Robusta coffee in particular. So yes, you're going to get the fluctuations. You get the coffee futures price go up to $5 and then falls back, but it doesn't fall back to $3.
And at a good time, how much is Brazil able to send to the global market compared to what we...
Brazil's massive. Brazil just,
that's what
massive.
I'm saying. So if they manage their natural calamity issues, frost and drought and stuff like that,
my friend,
they'll flood the market again.
We have climate change. That's the whole point about it. And Uganda, maybe because of our wetlands, I know we're in a belt which is subject to climate change, but it doesn't seem to be as severe. And also Robusta is more of a resistant, than say Arabica coffee. The Arabica prices and Robusta prices, they push each other in some ways. Arabica prices are normally higher. We produce about 20% of Arabica, but we can produce a lot more Arabica. I'm working on my farm at the minute with a hybrid of lowland Arabica that can grow at my farms at 1,200 meters, as opposed to having to be over 1,400 meters to grow Arabica. So there's all sorts of possibilities how we as Uganda can expand our coffee production, and we can bring money into the rural areas. Now, this is not about UCDA. UCDA has been fine. I have no complaints with UCDA. It's the president who is the issue with UCDA, because he's looking back and saying, but I don't think UCDA has got us to the point where he wants us to be at, where we're really pushing coffee value addition, because he's been preaching this, and UCDA say that's not our job. So whatever replaces UCDA, and something has to replace it, as you rightly say.
So Honorable Penduzi, yes.
Maybe I need to come in there, because the picture being painted right now is looking beautiful. The market looks very impressive, but I think we need to think ahead of that and talk about sustainability. Just like you're worried about what is likely to happen.
But you know what I also know for sure, many corporate Ugandans, in another 3 years, many corporate Ugandans now have gone into the coffee sector. Yes. We're going to hit the 20 million bags very soon because everybody has seen the money in the coffee sector, and people are leaving their offices to go and grow coffee. Give it 3-4 years and you'll see the boom that's going to have.
That has always happened with different products, not only coffee. Even cotton, sometimes back, the prices went, you know, up, and then people went into it. I remember farmers in northern Uganda, some of them out of frustration, ended up burning their you know, cotton. And so the most sustainable way is to look at what the president is saying, going value addition, putting a lot of energy so we don't keep on selling raw materials, not just the coffee beans. We are able to process, we are able to sell what can earn us much more than what we are getting. I think that should be the direction, and all of us should be able to speak that language. The other thing that, now coming back to the question...
Shall we be able to, because the coffee business on the international market looks like a cartel of sorts. You already have the Italian blend, you have the German blend, you know, by the time you push the Ugandan flavor to hit the market.
You see, one, I think Ugandans a lot of times underestimate themselves. But we also don't put the right energy to do the things we want to achieve. We know what we want as a country, but we don't put a lot of efforts to get that we want. We even have the resources. Just like my colleague has given an example. Sometimes it depends when we put a lot of resources in the areas that do not earn us quick. We already know there is an area that is giving us a lot of money. We need to concentrate there, do much more there, so we are able to get much more sustainably. Now, coming to the question of the rationalization, you know, Patrick, look, government created this entity to regulate and do all that it's doing. And I think the intention was clear. The question is, does the same government feel that they have not achieved much and they want to do things differently to achieve much? If that is the justification, why don't we allow them to do it? But we should also not be afraid to put difficult questions. The question of how prepared the Minister of Agriculture is in handling the task they need. The ministry is saying whatever the Coffee Authority has been doing will still continue, but will be done under the ministry, and they are going to have a department. The question is that department going to be empowered the same way the Coffee Development Authority is empowered? Two, are they going to get all the manpower, the people who have been working in that, to work with them? And that assurance has been given, okay? So the question of the transition has been key. Do we do it now, or we give it time? Okay. So we are able to look at the gaps and build the capacity and handle the task.
Patrick,
I think that has been the fear.
What's your biggest fear?
I want to come to the fear, but allow me pick up a bit about what Dr. Ian Clark was saying, that the president wants to close UCDA because he thinks they've not done well on value addition. I find that false, because UCDA is a regulator of the entire coffee value chain. If the president has participants that want to come at value addition, let them come in the market. Is there anything that stops them? Is there anything that can stop somebody, Starbucks, to come and set up in Uganda and come up with a flavor, Ugandan flavor? That's a good excuse to say you're killing a regulator because they've not. It is not the mandate of UCDA to ensure that participants do this and do that. Its entire value chain. There are those that are farmers. UCDA, the best they did is to advocate for seedlings. But it reached a point when government gave up on giving us seedlings in 2019. We were getting seedlings from government. Government complained that they are not seeing the coffee. They are, yet they had a roadmap. So since 2019, we're no longer getting seedlings from government. And UCDA was there to at least advocate for that. Even the nursery operators that supplied the coffee in 2022 up to now, they have not been paid. And that creates a worst case scenario that there are so many corporate people you're talking about who want to enter coffee, but there are no nursery operators where they can buy seedlings.
Okay, hold on to your point.
That has an impact now. You have asked me, what are my fears? My fears are here. Maif, the ministry, is one of the most inefficient ministries we have, even before rationalization. To the extent that government has had the projects, they have totally failed to manage. You remember the zonal, the district agriculture institutions that they found here?
The farm institute.
The farm institutions, are they there? Anywhere? They are just engaging in the business of selling that piece of land where they are. Recently, just supplying goats to goats and stuff, they failed. They supply goats which die the other day. There are so many inefficiencies. I can spend an entire day before. Now, what has happened? We have rationalized NADS. So all activities that have been being handled by NADS have gone to the ministry. We've rationalized the coffee. I mean cotton.
Yes, cotton, dairy.
Has gone. We've rationalized the dairy. Has gone. By the way, going there without creating any bit of efficiency, effort to create efficiency. Now, for us who know that anybody who plays 1 day or 2 days or 3 days with the sector, it impacts significantly the exporter, it impacts significantly we are saying government, take time. First create, we are saying it's okay. First create efficiency here, take time, let us see what you're doing with the cotton, let us see what you're doing with the tea. They've had the tea for some time. Maif has been overseeing tea. But where is the tea farmers? They are crying every day and nothing is going on, nothing to show off. So I want to tell you, my biggest fear, where you're sending coffee, you're sending coffee in this organization. We are saying
that is dysfunctional. That's what
yeah.
All right, Honorable Samba. Gentlemen, hold on your points because you're going to take a break on the spot. We'll be right back.
If there is anyone present who has a reason why these two should not be lawfully married, speak now or forever hold your peace.
For me, I have no problem with this marriage. I just have one issue for Honorable here. Now that elections are near, I just wanted to know your thoughts on constitutional reforms to improve electoral processes. Yes. Reforms to restore term limits, the role of security forces in elections. And something should stop. Beating voters, yes. Bribing with salt, intimidating voters. And we need these reforms before elections. You, our members of parliament, and even us citizens, it is important to know these things. Otherwise, you can kiss the bride.
Fellow citizens, constitutional and electoral reforms are necessary if we are to have peaceful and meaningful elections. This message is brought to you by the Uganda National NGO Forum.
New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
Program time change. This Wednesday, watch the drama, intrigue, and plot twists on What If at 8 p.m.
You, as my wife, should have been by my side, but you deserted me. You were never with me. You never gave me time.
Then join us for a new dynamic African teen school drama. Prefix at 8:30 p.m. only on NTV Uganda.
Solomon, the head prefect, quick. Is my collar straight?
We'll be out of Mvule High before you can pronounce the word scholarship.
NTV, turning on your world.
Hey yo, this is the Dancehall General Nathan Nathan, and on the 25th, this Friday, I'm gonna be performing at the Big Mic.
Tell me what you drinking, what you drinking.
Yeah man, be there. Watch out.
New Downy Perfume Collection. Olusine taga kawogo pungumanga ndimu kakamu mkavuyo. Oba kawowa katuna kankumanga ndimu pyamuku. Oba kawowa kampulizo bulungi olunakulonna n'okuyingira ekiro akawanga l'okusinga obuwoowo obw'ebbeeyi. New Downy Lavender Calm. Sunrise fresh and sweet elegance. Okudda obujja obuleetera omuntu okwekkiririzaamu.
Balulu basatu.
Ebirooto byo bituukiridde. Gezaako ku silingi 5 zokka.
Program time change. This Wednesday, watch the drama, intrigue, and plot twists on What If at 8 p.m.
You, as my wife, should have been by my side, but you deserted me. You were never with me. You never gave me time.
Then join us for a new dynamic African teen school drama. Prefix at 8:30 p.m. only on NTV Uganda.
Solomon, the head prefect, quick. Is my collar straight?
We'll be out of Mvule High before you can pronounce the word scholarship.
NTV, turning on your world.
Hey yo, this is the Dancehall General Nathan Nathan, and on the 25th, this Friday, I'm gonna be performing at the Big Mic.
Tell me what you drinking, what you drinking.
Yeah man, be there. Watch out.
On the next episode is brought to you by...
With 3 delicious flavors in the 300 ml and 500 ml bottles, there's an honor for everyone.
On the next episode...
Did I remind you that Velo TV is not yours? It doesn't belong to you. No, it doesn't. You're better than this, Mother. Just accept that right now you are doomed. Simple as that.
About that, I may have told Stephanie about you and Antonio. Yes, I know, but I'm sorry. I was doing it for you. Mother, look, I'm sorry.
Rebecca, no.
Mother, I'm sorry. But this girl can...
On the next episode...
With 3 delicious flavors in the 300 ml and 500 ml bottles, there's an honor for everyone. Where Funide ka honor at an outlet near you.
Babe, more honor, please. But won't get an honor.
Freshness you can taste.
Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Dr. Ian Clark. I have the Honorable Ojarama Penduzi and Honorable Patrick Nsamba, and we're discussing the proposed bill, the National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024. But I just want now to go into the issue of quality. And let me begin with you here, Dr. Ian Clark. Because for the case of tea, if you go to Mombasa, how they are auctioning tea, if you go to Europe, you may not even see any Ugandan tea, not even in Mombasa, where it is taken.
Yeah.
It is sold as Kenyan tea. I'm also told Uganda being the biggest coffee exporter in Africa, when you go to London or Germany or wherever, you may not see Ugandan coffee. What explains that?
That's one of
Europe or America doesn't know our coffee. How
come? We export most of our coffee actually to Europe. But because Robusta is, you know, it's got high caffeine in it, it's used a lot for espressos. It's also blended with other coffees. And because the Arabica, which we have less of, is what people often measure as, you know, we like our nice Arabica coffee from Ethiopia or Kenya or Rwanda for that matter. So Uganda coffee isn't known, and we've done a very poor job at branding ourselves, because we produce very good Arabica coffee and excellent Robusta coffee. And if we keep the emphasis, is one of the things I would say any agency should keep the emphasis on quality. Yes, we want to grow the amount of coffee that we produce, but we don't want to produce low quality coffee. People say, look at this rubbish coffee that's coming from Uganda. And we have the ability to, India produces nice washed Robusta. My farm produces nice washed Robusta. But you can, sun-dried Robusta, the Chiboko is good as well. But if we're not producing good quality, it becomes the stuff that goes to the liquid coffee, it goes to the, you know, the blends, and it's never heard of. So we do need to do an awful lot better job marketing ourselves.
So there's a problem with UCDA in marketing, in branding, in pushing for the Ugandan coffee on the world market,
I think
for pushing for our brand.
You know what it is? I mean, I was at the London Coffee Fest last year, and when we said Ugandan coffee to some of the roasters, they said, oh, does Uganda, you know, they didn't really know about Ugandan coffee. So yes, we have a problem of branding our coffee, whereas there was a big national push by the Rwandans to make Rwandan coffee high quality and to brand Rwandan coffee. Now people have heard of Kenyan coffee, of course Ethiopian coffee, and Kenya produces much less coffee than us, and of course Rwanda.
And even Rwanda much smaller.
Much less than us. So we need to brand our coffee as good quality coffee, not just the stuff you mix up or you make low quality coffee with, which means we must have an emphasis on quality production, and for that the farmers get higher prices. I buy from small farmers as well as my own farm, and I'm paying 3,000 shillings at the minute for cherry from these small farmers. A year ago it was probably 1,200 or something. That's the cherry they pick from the trees, and they get that when they bring their cherry. But it must be good quality, it must be picked red. It doesn't have the screen size, I don't, but it must not be floating, it might not have the floaters, and it must be, you know, red. This practice where Ugandan farmers will strip their coffee and strip the beans when they're unripe and then dry it on the ground and sell it as chiboko is awful. And that's where we need to have quality and discipline.
So we'll have quality issues. Yeah. But you know, Honorable Penduzi talked about a lot about value addition. There's a gentleman here. He had a very good story on coffee. I think it was called Andrew Rugasera, and he did something called Good African Coffee, and he pushed for it, and it was even on the shelves in Europe. And I think single-handedly he really tried to push Ugandan coffee. But I don't know what happened. Somehow that story seems to have gone down. So we need to know what happens to our business people, because I don't think there's anybody who has pushed for coffee than Andrew Rugasera.
You know, just like I said, we know a lot of the things that we have to do so we can do much better and get the resources we need and all that. But we don't put our energies. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, and I think this came to Parliament recently, where some private, you know, firms were given money to do the promotion of, you know, coffee production and consumption. Including doing a local coffee consumption promotion, because much as we grow a lot of coffee, our local consumption seems to still be very low, okay? Because we grow a lot, but we are selling and we are not consuming. So the idea was, how do we promote domestic coffee consumption? Again, the report came to Parliament and it was terrible. So the question is, where did the money go? And can we measure and really talk about whether
the money was to do for what? Teaching Ugandans to drink coffee?
Teaching Ugandans to drink coffee.
And you pay them?
But I'm not sure whether I'm not sure whether it was something that was done correctly. Again, I know that last financial year, and even this running financial year, some money has been put to, I think, about $20 million in the last financial year, supporting some private group to move out.
39 and 74.
Exactly. Supporting some private group to move out around the world to, you know, market our coffee and all that. Again, we can still do that better. all right? So there is need for us to, yes, the aspect of value addition is very important, but also the aspect of branding and trying to position ourselves globally. Because if we produce a lot, we should then be able to position ourselves in a way that we are able to, first of all, own and have a good name, but also reap big from it.
Let me say this, and it shouldn't be understood to mean economic sabotage. There is a coffee brand that is imported into Uganda. It's called Nescafe. If you went in every small restaurant in Kampala...
I'm told that is not coffee.
I'm building to that.
I'm told
if you go to every small restaurant in Kampala, you'll probably find that. And yet we are the biggest coffee exporter in all our supermarkets.
Yes.
And even on our shelves, you're going to find a lot of different Ugandan brands of coffee. But whoever is going to buy for a small restaurant will never buy Ugandan coffee. Why? And yet it is of higher quality. It's really, that story is really painful.
Now, there is a story I met in Ethiopia. In every hotel, if you've been to Ethiopia, there is a coffee shop. They are serving coffee.
And coffee from Ethiopia.
From Ethiopia. They have gone ahead to promote coffee consumption in their local market. And I asked, and they're saying that 40% of their coffee they consume it. So what you're saying, that there is a very big market of our own product we've not tapped into here. That many Ugandans were used on taking tea, and there is a lot of effort that needs to be done. But the strategy is not this one of speculators, these ones who came to Parliament and say, give us money, and they disappeared with the money, nothing to show off. I like the idea to say that maybe UCDA should do much more as an agency. If it is spared, and we're still hopeful, although my brother here thinks it's a gone case, we're still hopeful that what transpired yesterday and today can make the president to reflect on it, to say, no, I think I can leave this agency, I can first sort out the mess, because we've tried to make our voice go and reach to him about our desires. We hope that overnight or so many days, he may drop the idea. Now, Dr. Ian Clark is saying that the way we brand our coffee has left us in a way that we are not known. I was told that when they export coffee, when coffee reaches Vienna, is it Vienna in Italy?
Italy, yeah.
Then that coffee, nothing much is done on the beans.
It becomes Italian coffee.
But from there, it is exported to Morocco, it's exported to Dubai. Not as Ugandan coffee.
As Italian coffee.
As now.
Grown here and...
The question is, can't the same exporter...
I can even tell you that they have what they call English tea. Up to date, there's not even a single farm of tea.
I'm Irish.
Now, instead of blaming the agency, this is a matter of organization.
Yes,
we just need to organize our exporters to know where are the markets.
Yeah.
And if our exporters can just change, instead of exporting and they brand from there, let us try to export to the same markets, but we are exporting Ugandan coffee. And that's two things, organization and negotiation.
So Dr. Ian Clark, explain to me, if you can, why is it that somebody is able to push their inferior poor quality coffee into the Ugandan market? I don't want to say the name. The inferior poor quality coffee into the Ugandan market, and it is giving us a kill of the local market, and yet it's not even coffee. But is that because Uganda don't understand coffee?
They don't understand coffee, and it's a cultural thing in some ways, because it's just easy for the hotel to put this is soluble coffee or freeze-dried coffee, and there's an effort. There's I think the president gave some money to someone to start a factory to do that at the present time, and I actually know another guy. They got a machine and they're making liquid coffee, you know. So there's work being done on that front, but you have to educate these hotel owners. You don't have to go and buy that Nescafe. And then we produce our own soluble coffee, and we produce our own. Coffee's much nicer in just ground coffee, or beans that are ground fresh, and then you put the spoon in your cup. But for a lot of that coffee, you're better with the plunger. And we don't sell, you know, the plungers are hard to get. So there's a cultural issue, A, from tea to coffee, and B, from how you drink the coffee, how the coffee is served, whether it's soluble coffee, whether it's powdered coffee. But one of the things that I think we can do, and I've explored this, there's an issue. People say, no, you can't export roast coffee from here because it's not fresh when it arrives in, say, Ireland or England or Serbia or wherever. But you can actually, and there's something, if you leave coffee and if you grind coffee, put it in a bag and leave it in the high seas for 6 months or something, it'll arrive, it won't be fresh. But you can actually take coffee and take the beans, roast them here, put them in a vacuum sealed bag or a Grain Pro bag, and that coffee will stay fresh for like 2 years. And then you can export it, and then you repack it and brand it as Ugandan coffee in appropriate to that market. So if it's in England, maybe they like a certain type of weight and packaging and so on. We do that. If it's Ireland, that's what I want to do between here and Ireland, so that we have Ugandan brands in Ireland. Because I went into a supermarket in Ireland and I see this coffee and it says made in Ireland, and I'm thinking, where did they ever grow coffee?
So, okay.
But you know, Patrick, maybe before you come in, you know, the concept of investing heavily in promoting domestic coffee consumption needs to be taken up by government seriously, because you can imagine if we have 3 million cups of coffee taken by Ugandans. We are a population of 46 million people. Let's say you are able to take 2 cups a day, in the morning or sometime, and because you're always busy doing that, you grab a cup and you take it. So let's say you'll take 2 at your level, and we have 3 million. Let's use the lowest. Let's say let's use a rural, you know, rate of 3,000 shilling a cup of coffee. Per day, Uganda would be fetching 9 billion. 9 billion in one day from that. So we can actually do even much more in promoting and consuming it locally, and that will give us a lot of money. So there are many things what we need to do is to decide where we are putting our energies first. We need to also decide where because my brother Patrick is saying the president may have a change of mind and all that. But you see, it's even not about Coffee Authority. It's about government. Because even the Coffee Authority we are talking about is an entity of government. Gets money from government. It's supervised by government. So unless government begins to take some of these things, and this is an opportunity with all this rationalization, it's an opportunity for government to reflect, because there are clear indications that the citizens do not have confidence in the ministries. Not only Ministry of Agriculture, many ministries. But you know, there is a point, because we need to trim government. I will tell you the example of an entity like URA. The other time in May, I think around May or so, I also supported the idea that, not URA, UNRWA. I supported the idea that UNRWA should continue. But again, when I went back and started understanding how UNRWA works and all that, I think UNRWA should be rationalized. Because if you want to do a road, UNRWA does not design a road. They hire a consultancy firm to design. Then they need the persons affected. They hire a consultancy firm to handle that.
The pubs.
Then they do procurement. Then they hire a construction company to do the road. Then they also hire a consultancy firm to supervise the project. So what are they doing?
Now, for me, there is something very critical that Dr. Ian highlighted. And this must be work to be done. And it worries me, because the ministry is so thin on ground currently. That's why I was thinking that probably they needed time to ensure that before they take on this regulatory role, they build capacity. The issue of quality from the farmer, the way our farmers pick coffee, there's a lot of work to be done. There is the way our farmers store coffee, there is a lot of work to be done. The way our coffee is stored and transported, there is a lot of work to be done. A lot. I know I want UCDA to stay, but they are not empowered enough. Even UCDA, they are not empowered enough even to achieve that. And not until a time when our government takes and makes these, there are policies, there are institutions that can be built and the people live in a culture of knowing that this is our business and everyone wants to protect it. And until we have a time when the local farmers have appreciated this as a precious business, then that's when we will compete at the international market. And I'm looking forward to that, when the local farmer knows what goes on the international market. Because, hey, Dr. Ian Clark here wants to brand you.
But I think they are beginning to understand that quality fetches a higher price, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But because he's telling you,
because I understand now the quality is improving because people have understood that quality is giving them a better price.
A better price, yeah.
But he's telling you farmers who go and just pick green beans, and because they are stealing it, and they just go dry it anywhere.
They dry something mixes with the goat droppings, and you can't know whether it's a coffee bean or a goat dropping.
Those people who strip the coffee and then sell it to dealers who know that coffee is A, stripped, and B, stolen. It's when, as you say, the community has no pride in what they're doing and saying we're producing good coffee, and so then that's where you get the degradation of the whole industry.
And very briefly, what could have happened? Because there was a plan of producing 20 million bags of coffee by 2020. It's 2024. I think they are even not yet at 8. Is that the reason why you want to put UCDA on the job?
Well, let's wait and see that. There are a lot of plans. When you look at the Vision 2040, you look at NDP. Now we are going to NDP 4, and they are very ambitious plans.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Our concluding remarks.
That plan was achievable. It is 2030, the target for 2030.
You have now moved to 2030?
Yeah, that's the target. And it is achievable. If government...
But the original target was 20 million bags by 2020.
If government had known...
It was a bit unrealistic.
Okay. If government had not backtracked on supporting farmers, because for you to reach there, you need farmers, one, those that you support to plant, two, those that you support to manage, those that you're building a culture in them.
Training.
Exactly. You needed government not backtrack on those ones. Unfortunately, government backtracked.
Okay,
the business of not supporting.
And still with you, what's going to be your concluding remark tonight?
I want to ask President Museveni. Yes, I support your policy of rationalization, but I want to say UCDA is strategic. Go slow on it. First, see how the Maife is handling these other crops, the ones that you've sent there. Then later on, if they've built some bit of efficiency, you can come with a law to rationalize coffee. We will have no problem. But the current state...
You put it as if it is the president who picks it, this must be done. I mean, your arms of government have no power at all. It looks like even when you're debating in parliament, that one has no power at all, right?
Yeah, because when our colleagues tell us the man wants it.
This is what happens.
What happens?
Okay. What's going to be your concluding remark?
Well, my concluding remark is that, and this is not just about the Coffee Development Authority, all the other entities, agencies that have been rationalized. I think from this, the president and the executive generally needs to know that the expectation of Ugandans is very high. The rationalization should not end up killing the services that the citizens used to have. I am happy that a transition period has been created, like for the Coffee Development Authority. there is need to do much more in making sure that Ugandans have confidence in the ministries. But also the ministries need to, because there are very clear examples in a number of areas where ministries are not doing well. Even targets, when targets are set, they don't meet the targets. And that's not right.
Okay.
In a serious world, when you set targets, it's a commitment to the citizens, and you need to make sure you deliver. So the president needs to take that and make sure that all the entities that have been taken back to the ministries, the mother ministries, have to, actually, we expect to have better services.
Thank you. Dr. Clark, your parting shot?
My perspective is that coffee is a great cash crop to improve the household incomes in the rural poor, and thus begin to lift them out of the sort of grinding poverty and subsistence farming. But we need to put an eye to quality, which means the farmers need training. We haven't really, there's been a failure in terms of outreach workers and training. So, the seed that you plant, not the seed, it shouldn't be seed any longer, it should be clonal coffee. It should be pruned, it should have the right nutrition, the pest control should be there, the coffee should be picked when it's been red, and it's, post-harvest handling and storage and so on. If we do all those things, and as you said, if we take pride in what we're doing, we can really grow to the 20 million bags at a high value and really do what Vietnam did, which was lift its peasants out of absolute poverty and bring them into lower middle income status.
Dr. Ian Clark, Honorable Mapenduzi, and Honorable Patrick Nsamba. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for the time you've given us, for your submission. I can see and feel the passion you have for the coffee sector. I'm sure everybody who's pushing for and against, they all want the best for Uganda. We hope it can go well, because it should go well, because this is the most strategic crop that is bringing more than $1.1 billion, and which could even grow more for Uganda. It would be good if we do it with a lot of care. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of On the Spot. Good night and God bless Uganda.